We are back with the next Understanding the Officer video in the Understanding the Officer video series, and today's focus is going to be Death Adder. He's a Generation 1 officer that's kind of lingered around in certain situations and scenarios a little bit longer than expected, but is he really worth it? We're going to cover all that in this video. Welcome back. I hope each and every one of you are doing wonderful, and I hope life is going well. I'm excited to bring you guys the next officer video in the Understanding the Officer video series, and like I said in the intro, today's focus is going to be Death Adder. But before we get going, if you enjoy these videos, if you are a new player and find these videos helpful, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel if you are not already so you don't miss any future uploads. Let's try to get this video to at least 100 likes. Now let's go ahead and jump in and start taking a look at Death Adder. All right, so Death Adder is a Generation 1 officer. Now, just like a lot of other Generation 1 officers and a lot of the officers just in general in Warpath, he is tagged as a versatile officer, but as we know, most versatile tagged officers are not actually really versatile. They're geared towards like tanks or artillery specifically. In Death Adder's case, he is geared more towards tanks specifically. Let's talk about Death Adder's skill, his first tactical skill here first. So now he's going to do a damage coefficient of 1050, which is at the very, very bottom of damage coefficients for officers in general, including Generation 1 officers. Now, he does have a little bit of a damage resist buff that's for a temporary period of time, so that is somewhat helpful, but not really that meaningful in the grand scheme of things, especially once you start to get to the mid and later stages of the game. Now, Death Adder's second skill, similar to Bloody Mary, is going to offer a damage intensity increase of 15%. Now, the kind of age-old question, which I've covered videos in the past about it, so if you want to see some actual live testing taking place to where you can see exactly which one is more beneficial between firepower and damage intensity, you can definitely go check that video out if you want to. But I'll give you guys the answer just in this video if you don't want to go watch it. Damage is always the better option. Anytime you have to choose between firepower or damage, you always want to go with damage. So his second skill, again, which is going to increase damage intensity by 15%, is always a big win, especially when you can start to use these skills through the officer skill training system. His third skill, which is a balance skill, which holds a little bit of value, not a lot, but in certain situations, as you start to level up other officers and you need more skills for the officer skill training system, maybe you need a balanced skill for whatever reason, he's going to offer a firepower buff of 5% and an HP buff of 15%. Now, his fourth skill is a little bit of an interesting one because a lot of people overvalue this one because it increases the pin damage of this officer's troop by 40%, so they'll throw it sometimes on a tank, sometimes on an anti-tank gun, and think that they're going to just get a whole host of more damage, and that's not really the case. This is, it looks like a lot on paper, but in practicality, this doesn't actually yield much of a return on investment. So out of his fourth skill or his second skill, again, which is going to be the damage intensity, the damage intensity is going to be definitely the priority skill that you want to use via the officer skill training system. Now let's talk just briefly about how Death Adder is going to stack up in the grand scheme of things. He is not really ever going to be that relevant past the early stages of the game. Once you get into the mid and especially the later stages of the game and start to unlock Generation 3 and 4 officers, then he's really going to fall off to the wayside. However, he kind of did linger around, or does linger around for some players, because they have a kind of a unique setup. So if you're the type of player that's going or intends to go all in on tank units and you want to build like 3, 4, maybe even I've seen some players have 5 tank units. They don't have any artillery units at all. They've gone literally all in on tanks. And if that's the situation you perceive yourself being in at some point in the future, or maybe you already are in that situation, then maybe he might slide in for a period of time in the mid, maybe early, late stages of the game. But if that is not you and you've got more of a balanced or a hybrid setup, like I like to call it, you've got maybe 1, 2 tanks, you've got a couple of artillery units in there, then Death Adder is not going to find his way into your lineup for very long. So my suggestion personally to you would be, if you are going to invest in Death Adder at all, do not put more than you have to in him. Do not worry about Awakening Death Adder. Invest in his second skill, which is going to be a universally applicable skill that you can put on any unit type and any officer, which is going to increase the damage intensity of that troop by 15%. That will definitely yield some return for you. But other than that, I would pretty much steer clear of Death Adder. Save your statues for later game officers, again, Generation 3 and 4 officers. So with that being said, again, another short video. These videos are not intended to be really long and drag on and waste a bunch of your time. They're pretty much designed to get right to the point and let you know, is this a good officer to invest in or not, if you're an early player in Warpath. If you have stuck around this long into the video, if you've got access to Discord and are not already in our community Discord server, the link to that is going to be in the description of the video below. Click on that link. It'll take you right into the community server. Whether you are a new player and have questions, want to learn, whether you are a veteran player and just want to come hang out and get to know more people in the community, it doesn't matter. Absolutely everybody is welcome. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and we'll see you on the next one.